Do you remember your first deal, the excitement of talking to a seller that was actually interested in what you had to say and open to something creative? Maybe you're a new investor and you're wondering what that's like, or will any seller actually be open to giving us the deed or doing any kind of deal that way? Is it all just a big myth? We're talking about first deals today on the Sub2Deals show. Hey, Sub2ers, welcome to the Sub2Deals show, where we talk about all things subject to creative finance. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you know that occasionally we do talk about other things, but it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. Today is our 100th episode of the Sub2Deals show. If you've been listening or watching us on YouTube for the last couple of years, we just want you to know that we appreciate you, and we appreciate the fact that you trust us for your real estate investing education. Today's episode is a newbie first deal episode. We have Sub2 Max coaching student Carla Carter here. Carla's in North Carolina, and she joined our group earlier this year and recently closed on her first deal. So we're going to bring her in and talk to her today all about that. So Carla, welcome to the Sub2Deals show.
Hi, thank you, William. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, we're celebrating having you here today. We're celebrating our 100th episode of the Sub2Deals show. We're happy to have you. I was telling everyone before you came into the studio that you recently joined Sub2 Max earlier in the year. Came in and you know one of the and teaching investors for almost 20 years now. We talk about this stuff all the time, but it's absolutely the truth. And I see it time and time again, students that know everything there is to know, but they just don't take action. And, just massive imperfect action beats, delayed perfect action, every day of the week. And your story's amazing. Every time we talk about it, I know you're tired of listening to me say, man, it's such a great story. And you won't really appreciate it until you've been around for a really long time. A lot of people that get started, maybe their first deal, just click, 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 it happens, just textbook. And they don't appreciate one with a lot of trials and tribulations like yours had. But we'll get to that in just a minute. Carla, tell everybody about you, about, just your life, your family, everything, what got you to real estate investing.
Sure. So I am in Kernersville, North Carolina, just outside of Greensboro. I'm an engineering manager for a renewable energy company. And for the past couple of years have been really interested in real estate investing and have a family member that's an uncle who I would private lend money to for some of his flips that he had out of Richmond, Virginia. And I saw how lucrative it was for him and really wanted to get started. But didn't know how. It was a full-time job and husband and 2 kids. It's just not a lot of time. So started reading books passively, starting to get to know about it outside of just the lending aspect of it. And one of the things my husband and I agreed upon, hey, we don't want to burn a whole lot of our, savings on this. What are some of the lower cost to entry, to get into real estate investing? And right. 2 of the things that jumped out were wholesaling and subject to, So I joined one of the RIA groups here locally in the Greensboro area, the Triad RIA, and a segment of it is the Women in Real Estate Investing Group. And I basically heard from one of the members about you and your show and listened to everything that had to be said and really got excited about it and started to join and just started listening. And I joined in April and had my first deal under contract in May.
Yeah, I know you came into the group. I mean, like a lot of new investors do, new student, and came to a couple of meetings, and were a little quiet. But what was great about you? I mean, you came in, you listened, and you went out and actually did stuff. And next thing I knew, you were in a meeting. 2 or 3 meetings later, saying, "Hey guys, I've found this deal. Let's talk about it." You came in for the evaluation and everything. So, man, that sounds like a great deal. But and from the very start, and guys, Carla knows that I'm not picking on her in any way by saying this, but she is a great example about how you can do some things not textbook and things still work out just because you took action. Because we talk a lot about going after expired listings, and in most cases, what we mean is after a listing's been on the market 6 months, 9 months, whatever, and it didn't sell. A lot of times you're going to be dealing with somebody that is motivated to sell. Carla goes back. Well, I'll let you tell the story, Carla. What did you do to go out and get this deal? What was the process, the very first step?
Right. So, like you said, I listened to a few of your meetings and your classes and lots of your previous shows on the podcast. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that came up was like, hey, look, create a list through failed listings on Propstream.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Propstream and I searched for 3 bedroom, 2 baths, and did all the other parameters, 1,800 square feet, everything like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and single family home, and found this one listing that failed back in 2 years ago, 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and skip traced that owner, and one evening, and he picked up. And I told him, I said, hey, I heard that you were looking to sell this property and it didn't work out. Are you still interested in selling? And he said, yeah, I'm definitely interested in selling. And basically referred me over to his son. He was a more mature gentleman, and
Mm-hmm.
wanted me to kind of deal with his son. And I spoke to his son, and the son said, hey, that his spouse passed away, his stepmother, and they had a bunch of problems on the property, and they got a seller or a buyer, and tried to sell the property and just couldn't, because what he told me at the time, he said he did not have the bill of sale.
Right.
And so I took all the information down, and at our next meeting came into the group and posted it to everyone, and on Facebook, wrote it all up, and you're like, nope, that shouldn't stop you. So came to an agreement with the seller and said, hey, I would love to buy your house from you. And what do you want? And he said, you know what, I just want to be rid of it. My dad is to a certain age where they don't want to have to deal with a home in probate type of a situation, because unfortunately his father was a little bit ill, and kind of in and out of hospitals. So
Right.
he was just doing some estate planning from that perspective.
Right.
And so he said at the time, he's like, I don't want to pay anything out of pocket. I'm not worried about anything. Just take the property. So I said, all right, wrote the deal up and sent it over to him. And of course, he came back and said, "Oh, maybe I'll take 3,500."
Right. Exactly.
We agreed upon 3,500, and I would take care of all the closing costs and the
Mm-hmm.
paperwork. So,
Right.
at the time, went over to the property, checked it out, and they had some tenants in it that were family members that were
Mm-hmm.
paying well below market rent. I mean, the house was a 4 bedroom, 2 bath property that was near High Point University, and it was a great layout and everything. And I think it was like 2,000 square feet, so it was this
Mm-hmm.
really nice property. It was an older home, but still a solid property. And so, after getting an inspection on it, and finding out that there was like knob and tube wiring, and
Mm-hmm.
there were some other things, you recommended doing like a seller finance deal. And so I immediately, after I got under contract, I put it out on Facebook, and marketed it that way, that, hey, I'll seller finance with 10% down.
Right.
And got a lot of interest. I mean,
Right.
people were contacting me left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on paper, I was buying the property for essentially about 135, 140, just basically to take care of the mortgage, and then the extra 3,500 to give him to walk away with. And yeah, it was great. And then it took a little while because we had to get the tenants out of the property. So he
Mm-hmm.
was concerned about his family, and they were looking for a place to rent. He told them that he was selling it. And so, we said, okay, late spring, we'll set the date for June, I think was the original date. And come June, it just didn't work out. They still needed some more time. So we pushed it to July.
Mm-hmm.
And in the month of July, I was working with a closing attorney on the property. About, a couple days before closing, there was an issue. That bill of sale situation came up again.
Right.
They're like, there are 2 deeds of trust on the property. You got to get those worked out. And I didn't know what a deed of trust was at the time or what the problem really was. So I brought it back to the group again and found out that essentially the paperwork had not been submitted, that the loans on the property were satisfied prior to them buying the property.
Mm-hmm.
So
now this, excuse me there, but this point is something that's important to know. First of all, the seller had told you initially he listed his property, he had a buyer, they went through the process, got literally to the closing table.
Yes.
And couldn't close because of a bill of sale issue. Now, I know when you brought that to the group, I said a bill of sale, typically in the sale of a property, that only applies, the only reason for a bill of sale is for appliances or maybe an exterior storage building. It's just something for personal property that's exchanged, saying this is going along with this real estate transaction. So how did that stop the closing? Well, what we come to find out in your case is that it wasn't a bill of sale. It was an open deed of trust, where when the property, when your seller had bought it, the previous mortgage that had been satisfied at that closing had not filed a satisfaction of mortgage.
Right.
And this had happened 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is what's interesting about real estate, guys. The title company just went, oh, this is a problem. You guys solve it. It's not on us. And so the closing just completely fell through. It was about to happen again. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because the title company went, hey, wait a minute. Yeah. Because title companies, I'm telling you, they almost always wait till the last minute to run title.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they? And so you don't find out about problems like this. But anyway, didn't mean to interrupt your story. Just want to make sure everybody understands what this is and how simple a fix this really is, because Carla went out and fixed it herself.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So how'd you do that?
So just, contacted the banks, so there were 2 that were on there, one from the previous owner and the one from the owner before that. So there were like 2 sales that had occurred where, the information was not recorded properly. So found out both banks had been bought out by, other organizations, and had to do a little bit of digging with, Guilford County Register of Deeds, and then also just Googling the different banks and all of that. And was able to contact both banks and tell them the situation and what was going on. And it was a lot of time on the phone with different customer service departments. And just basically was able to get it closed out. With the MERS system, I guess the mortgage repository system, in order to identify the trust and the previous owners. I actually contacted the last set of owners, and they were very friendly and very helpful in the situation, and was able to get everybody on the phone together and close out that situation within the bank. And the Register of Deeds had the deeds of satisfaction within 2 weeks. So when we pushed back that second one, it was ready by then.
Okay, so process here. You've got a house with a seller that initially he needed to sell because he was moving a few states away for a job. He got it to the closing table. Deal fell apart. He's ready to move. In desperation, he rents it to a family member for just enough to cover the mortgage. Okay, not an ideal situation. If you don't rent to family. So a couple of years roll by. They don't take good care of the property. They, if I remember correctly, sometimes they pay, sometimes they don't. So that's an issue. So there's a lot of frustration for this seller. Then they get it under contract. I remember the meeting you came to, and I said, listen, when you write this contract up, you make sure that this seller understands this deal closes when the family member tenants are out.
Right.
and he makes the payments until that happens, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So every extra month it took, it didn't cost you anything. The seller made the payment because
Well,
they got the rent.
yeah. So he was actually collecting the rent, and he stopped making the payments on the property.
He
Which
stopped making the payments.
yes, so which I did not find that out until the second closing when we got closer in and the HUD statements were all sent out, and
Right,
but the payments were so low, it
right,
was like an additional 1,400,
right,
and by that point I was just so over it. I was like,
right.
let's just move forward.
Yeah,
$1,400 isn't gonna make or
right,
break anything
right,
in this particular situation. Um,
right.
so yeah,
Because you got this house for what was the price on it? Ultimately, what did you pay for this house?
I ended up paying 143,500.
143. And you were going to sell it with seller financing for how much?
175.
175. Okay. But somehow between the time that you got this thing under contract and the time you got its closing, you got a cash offer from the university.
Yeah, so after closing, the second go around, we finally closed. I went to the property to collect the keys and everything, and the tenants were not happy about moving, and they totally trashed the house.
Right.
I mean, I got in there. I mean, there was furniture strewn all across the yard. There was garbage everywhere. I mean, got inside, they just tore up the house,
Mm,
for the most part.
right.
And I thought to myself, I was like, man, this is going to be a challenge trying to sell it to someone on order
Mhm.
financing, because I had been, advertising it as, just needs a little love and care, which
Mhm.
at the time that's what it needed. To
Right.
now where it was like, yeah, there's going to have to be some work. So
Right.
I came outside of the property, and the neighbor across the street was, waving, and so I went over and talked to her. And she said, "Oh, are you with the university?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm a private investor that bought the house." She's like, "Oh, okay, because High Point University has been buying all these houses over here in this
Mhm.
neighborhood." I said, "Oh, okay." So I said, I looked it up and got in contact with their acquisition team. They sent out a real estate agent like the next day and
Mhm.
looked at the property. And I looked at the comps and I said, you know what? I bet you they're willing to buy this property and I'm going to sell it to them for 185 was what I was
Mhm.
going to sell it first. And he said, no, we can't do 185. How about 180? I said, we'll do 180 if you cover all of the closing costs and expenses and take care of it from there. And he
Mhm.
agreed. And 2 weeks later, actually sold the property to the local university and for cash. And it worked out really nicely from that perspective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But listen, there's more to this story. Okay, in there, Carla. There's more to this story, and we're going to get Carla to tell us all about it when we come back in just a minute. We're gonna hear from our sponsor. Listen, if you guys are interested in learning how to do Sub2, I wrote a course on that, and we're going to tell you just a little bit about it. So we're going to listen to that, and we'll be right back.
Have you ever had a seller give you a house? It's a pretty awesome experience. If a seller wanted to give you a house today, would you know what needed to be done to make the deal happen? Would you like to learn how? The Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook will show you exactly what you need to get those deeds and sell those houses with seller financing. Join the thousands of other investors across the country who learned how to get the deed with the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook. Get the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook today at Sub2Deals.com.
Hey guys, we're back. We're talking to Carla about her very first deal that she just closed this year. So Carla, you made a switch. You finally you got through the closing because of the problem bill of sales.
Mhm.
You got that taken care of. You got the closing done. You go over. The tenants have moved out. They've trashed the house.
Yep.
Now the house needs work, but the local university comes by and says, "Hey, we'll write you a check." Okay, so you get that done. 2 weeks later, you go to that closing. You collect a check. You guys have listened to me for a while know that I'm a big advocate of using trust. And Carla, man, she came in, she did everything just like we talked to her about doing. She sets up a trust, she takes title in a trust, she has her closing with the university, and they write the check out to the trust. Am I correct on that? Okay. So then what happens?
So, I'm excited. I go by the real estate attorney's office and pick up, or excuse me, the closing attorney's office and pick up the check and take it out to the bank to deposit.
Mhm.
And at this time, they're like, we can't deposit this check. It doesn't have your name on it. It has this trust name on it. I said, oh well, I have all the trust documentation, and I showed them the trust that I'd opened it and all of that. They were like, no, sorry, we cannot, cash this check. We can't deposit this check into your account. It has to be deposited into a trust account. Well, I hadn't set up a trust account just yet because I was, just busy doing the sale and getting the deeds of trust satisfied and all of that, that I hadn't opened an account. And so, and I, really wanted to just liquidate and just not even go that route anymore.
Mhm.
And I went to separate banks and nobody would deposit this check. So I ended up going to the bank that basically stood behind the check. Their name was on it, and they said, no, you gotta open up a trust and go this route. So
Mhm.
moved forward and said, okay, fine. Opened up a bank account with the trust name, and that took a little while. It took
Mhm.
a few weeks. They had to do all this research and make sure I wasn't, somebody that I'm not, and it was really frustrating, honestly, because I had
Right.
heard other people having different experiences.
Mhm.
And I even took it back to the closing attorney's office to say, hey, can you guys put my name on this check? And they absolutely refused.
Right.
I mean, these people we've been through this process the entire time. And well, for the sale aspect of it,
Mhm.
they just absolutely would not do it.
Right.
And so it took the better part of a month, over a month in order to do this. And it was very frustrating, but, got through it. Finally
Mhm.
opened up the trust account and got the check deposited.
Right. Right. And what's really, and I know you told me you had been doing business with this bank since you were a teenager.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they just would absolutely not bend on this.
And
And
not only that, the bank was in the same building with the closing attorney who could have walked you down and said, listen, this is Carla. And I mean, it's just amazing. And so one of the main, and I know if you're listening or learn this lesson, I know Carla has, we've talked about it numerous times. This is why having your team in place is so important. Not just a closing attorney, not just a title company, somebody that understands what you do and can handle a scenario. You know what I mean? I understand rules, but I know I've been doing this for 22 years, and I've this whole trust account business and everything else is just it's just crazy. But obviously, I mean, even the bank, and I don't know if you're still doing your real estate transactions through this particular bank, or I'm telling you, if I've been doing business with a bank since I was a teenager, and they made me go through. So all this whole time, Carla's hanging on to this check for 38 grand
yeah,
that she can't put in the bank and spend.
right.
So I mean, it's just one frustration after another. But we finally get it across the finish line, deposit the funds, and
Yeah.
so Carla's on to more deals. Now you just closed another deal, didn't you? Another house that you
Yeah,
bought.
yeah. So, a wholesaler reached out to me a little while ago and had a property in my hometown of Augusta, Georgia, um,
Hmm.
in the Harrisburg district, and said, "Hey, I've got this property. It was a hoarder, and do you want it? It's for 20 grand." And I looked at the pictures, and it looked like it was just a decent house that had
Hmm.
the grass and all the shrubs and everything had overgrown the property. But aside from that, and all the junk that was inside of it, it was a functional property. Set my
Hmm.
parents down there, they checked it out, the whole nine, and yeah, ended up buying the property and
Hmm.
getting everything cleared out now, and getting the yard pruned back and taken care of. So I got a property that's essentially worth, I guess the ARV would be like about 115 to 125
Hmm.
for $20,000.
Right. I mean, it's great. So, yeah, and that's one of the things that was just so impressive about you, Carla, from the start. You were new to creative finance, but you just came in and you just said, okay, here's something I can do, and just started doing it. You got Propstream. You've got to have a couple of tools in this business, and there are only two that I really say that every investor's got to have. Yeah, there are a lot of gadgets out there that can make your life easier if you use them. But if you just buy it and it just sits on your laptop or whatever, and you don't. But Propstream, we use that every day for multiple things, and a really good CRM where you can follow up with people. Plus, Carla wasn't afraid to pick up the phone. I know that you call people, and a lot of people listening to this have a fear of the phone.
Yep.
But okay, as a new investor, and you'd probably, yeah, I don't think you had ever been in any industry where you had to cold call people.
No.
But they're just people. You just pick up the phone. And how often, I know you shared a text exchange a few days ago in the group that was just nuts. But where someone wouldn't give her the name or something. But really, in all the cold calling that you do, and you cold called this seller for this $38,000 deal, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
In all of your calls, how many people do you really run into that are just horrible to deal with?
I would say 10%, honestly.
Yeah.
For the most part, people are fairly polite, or
Mhm.
you get a lot of, no,
Mhm.
they don't answer the phone, and just goes to voicemail or something.
Right.
So, but it is, you get a little anxiety about it, and you get anxious, and
Mhm.
but they're just people,
Yeah.
and just kind of do a little bit of research, behind it, and try to practice, but you're only going to get better with practice. So
Right.
I'm still a work in progress, but just continuing on. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, they are just people. And I'm telling you, the people that really, the ones that you want to talk to are going to be glad you called. This particular gentleman, oh, yeah, I really want to sell it. Yeah, talk to my son. You guys work it out. I mean, and those are the people that you're looking for. And they're going to be 1 out of 100, and the rest of them will be indifferent. They won't want to deal with you. But most people, even if the conversation starts a little testy or whatever, people are used to getting calls now. So some of them can be a little bit, oh man, I've talked to enough investors, I don't want to talk to you either. But you just have to realize, people are frustrated nowadays. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. People have this low level anger all the time about, the different things that we're dealing with just in life. And, if it starts going sideways, just, hey, listen, you have a great day and
Yep.
best of luck with your property. And a lot of times you'll buy a house eventually from some of those people that are hard to deal with today, just because you're nice. You don't, because I see some text exchanges in some of the other groups where the investor just gives it back to them. And I'm thinking, man, you're never going to buy that house.
Yeah. It's a
And
waste of time. Yeah.
it is.
Time.
It is. It is a waste of time. So why not just be nice and just move along to the next thing? So good for you. I know that's the thing that impresses me so much about you, Carl, is you'll come into the calls. We'll talk about doing something. Next thing I hear from you, you're like, listen, what do I do about this? Because you're out there taking action.
Yes.
On whatever it is that we talk about. So, and that's working for you. That's great. So you got this lead from a wholesaler because you're out there advertising in wholesaling groups.
Yes.
And saying, hey, I'm looking for leads. What areas do you buy in? Because if anybody's listening to this that maybe is a wholesaler trying to learn creative stuff, if they've got a deal in your area, they can pick up the phone and call you or visit your website. Or what's the best way to reach you, and what areas are you looking to buy?
So I am looking to buy in Augusta, Georgia, CSRA area, or the triad area of North Carolina, which is Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Raleigh, those areas, so and even beyond, I'm honestly, for North Carolina, definitely looking in the Fayetteville area and Charlotte, certainly. And Augusta is where we're comfortable with, but you can always reach us at accarterllc.net, or you can also reach out to me on Facebook. I'm on there a fair amount within the different REI groups under Carla Carter. I'm in Kernersville, North Carolina. It's usually pretty easy to look me up that way as well. And bring me your deals. I love looking at deals. I'm interested in single family homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet. Just give me a shout.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, excellent. Well, listen, Carla, if you had one tip that you could give a new investor or maybe even multiple tips. If you were giving advice to a new investor, somebody that had been looking at investing and wanted to get started, what would you tell them? What steps should they take right now to get out and get going?
I think they should definitely join their local real estate investment, local RIA,
Right.
association. That will be helpful. Go to the meetings, either virtually
Mhm.
or in person. Make sure you're taking action every day.
Mhm.
Start downloading podcasts and follow people that are doing the things that you're interested in doing. And you'll
Mhm.
find that you start learning. But it's really important if they list out these steps, every show you listen to, they list out different steps. Make sure
Mhm.
you're taking action. And I think one of the most important things to do is lay out your goals. You know,
Mhm.
what are you trying to accomplish? And look at that every single day. And
Mhm.
that's been very helpful for me. And that's what started getting things going on my end.
Right. So and that really is the key. Taking action. Goals are super important too, and
Mhm.
and goals are so important. Not just thinking about it, but having them written down, something that's measurable.
Mhm.
You know, if you don't write it down, chances of it being measured and monitored aren't as great. Well, you can say, well, I really want to buy my first house this year. But if that's something you've got to look at on your whiteboard in your office or on something, a notebook you carry around with you or whatever, it's much more likely to really take place, wouldn't you say?
I agree 100%.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay. Well, Carla, we appreciate so much you coming on, talking about your first deal. This should be super encouraging to people who are listening and just wanting to get started. Everyone's not going to go like a lot of the deals that you hear about. Oh man, we found a seller. They immediately agreed. We got it under contract. We had a buyer next week. We double closed. We got a check. They don't all work that way.
No.
But I tell you this, the $38,000 still spends just as good.
Yeah.
It takes a little while, doesn't it? And the important thing is Carla got, in this case, she got a lot of education off of this deal too, a lot of real world education. I guarantee you the next time she runs into a situation with a seller who has a tenant in place, she's going to know to put in that contract, listen, we don't close until the seller's out. I mean, excuse me, until the tenant's out,
Right.
and I'm going to do a final walkthrough, okay, after the tenant's out. We're going to make sure everything's in good order. And she also knows next time she runs into an open security deed, she knows exactly what she needs to do. And she goes out there and gets it knocked out, no problem. And she also knows that if her intent is to flip it really quick for cash, probably she can go ahead and close in an LLC or in her name because she's not going to hold it but for a few days. So all of these things she's learned, and you learned today because you listened to her tell her story. So good for you coming on and teaching everybody. We really appreciate you being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you, William.
We're super proud of you. So thanks so much, Carla. Okay, guys, that is it for this episode of the Sub2Deals show. Uh, if you would like to learn more about the Sub2 Max coaching program Carla's a part of, you can visit us at sub2max.com. We teach you how to do creative finance. We step you through your deals. We have multiple masterminds in person every year. In fact, we're having our next one in January in Phoenix. We're going to get together for a couple of days with our students and just talk about their businesses and how we can help each other improve those with systems and just what's working in the different markets. If you'd like to join us, visit us at sub2max.com. Learn all about it. If you're looking for a course to give you the paperwork and step you through the process, you can check out our Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook. You can get that at sub2deals.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to send those to me, William at sub2deals.com. We'd love to help you out with those. Sometimes we'll answer them on our goat tips segment. And you can also join us for Goat Talk. That's every Thursday. That's our Facebook Live that we do every Thursday. So, guys, get out there, talk to some sellers, and buy some houses. See you next time.